You've gone. You've run away.
And then we hope for the best.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, and assembled company. Well, it is with enormous pleasure and some trepidation as the gremlins, the technical gremlins, have entered the land, the Zoom land, and they're conspiring against Baden. But could you please put your hands together and welcome Baden Prince? Baden, we'll try to have it over to you.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening, everyone. And you'll be updated if as things are going along. Good evening. Good evening, audience. Good evening, gremlins. Bye, gremlins. Gremlins, go away. You will not win tonight. Be with you at World Storytelling, currently by just you and we relentlessly. I'm here to tell you a couple of stories. To start with an anecdote. Now I can't see you, and
yeah, we've still got sound problems, Baden.
You can see me. Let me get rid of go back on thing. Okay. Let me connect the head. I'm just on the phone. Give it a minute or two to settle down and give me a nod or a shake of the head. Is the sound better?
No.
Or ask Julia to send me a quick note.
There we go.
What's the sound doing?
I tell you what, Baden. Oh, it's just a sec. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
No. Try again. Okay, go for that phone number that that Yulia sent and do it just sound without any thing.
Okay.
Have you got that? Just dial.
I can see it here.
Yeah. Okay, dial that. Put in the meeting ID. Okay, and then we'll just have sound. Number that that you sent and do it just sound without. Oh, Bob.
Hey.
We've got the gremlins in tonight.
Yeah, I was having gremlins with my sound up until 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, so we're now this is likely to be a radio broadcast. You can all see each other. The audience can see each other. But we're not going to be able to see Baden, I don't think, because I'm bringing him in by phone.
Okay, let's give it a try.
Louis, glad you haven't abandoned us.
Yeah.
We're just having a few problems here, Louis.
My internet's gone off as well once.
Oh, the gremlins have got into your internet as well, have they?
Yeah.
Yeah, gremlins everywhere. Bob had gremlins earlier on his internet. They're obviously having a fine time on the virtual highway tonight.
Are they?
Yeah. There's gremlin traffic jams on the virtual highway.
That's not good. When on my way to school, and there's a police car.
Oh no.
Back. And
Guys,
Hold on, Louis. We're just getting Baden here.
hi guys, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, should we go for it?
Yeah, should we tell a couple of stories? Say hello to
Yay.
Louis. You can't see him, but
Hi Louis, I got it.
hiya. I'm good.
It's
Can
okay.
you?
Can you hear me?
yeah, we
Yes,
can hear you.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, Louis, this is just for you, for being such a patient guy and for being such a good lad. I've got a riddle for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I've done my own things ready.
What's the biggest and most dangerous ant in the whole world?
Repeat that, Baden.
Which ant is the biggest and most dangerous ant in the world?
Which ant?
Which ant is the biggest and most dangerous ant in the world? Shall I tell you?
Go for it. It's not my Auntie Frida, is it? Auntie Frida.
It's an ant. It's a red ant. Red ant.
Ah, good guess, Lou. You said a red ant, yeah? No, wait for it. It's an elephant.
Ah.
Time for some stories. And the first story I'm going to tell you tonight is the story of Anansi the plantain. And this story takes place on a market day afternoon. I don't know about you, but I love markets. I love going to the market. I love seeing all the different types of fruits and vegetables piled up. I love seeing all the flowers. I love seeing the people hustling backwards and forwards, hustling, shouting, selling. I love people are in the corner cooking up some food to sell, and oh, the sights, the sounds, the smells. There's nothing like a market on a Saturday afternoon. I love it. And on this particular Saturday, it was no different in the town where Nancy lived. There were people coming to and fro, going up and down the road, pushing their carts, riding their bicycles, riding their trucks, riding their carts with the horses pulling them along, piled high with all the produce from their farms and their fields. There was sweet corn and sweet potatoes and carrots, cabbages and plums and tomatoes and apples and pears and oranges and grapes, and it was a wonderful night. You see, all these people is working all year long, through spring, through summer, planting, sowing, weeding and watering, and then was harvest all the goodness from the fields, from the trees, and take it to the market. And those stuff to take to market were taking it to market to sell, to make some money. And those who didn't have a field or a farm or an orchard, who didn't grow anything or produce anything, they worked to make money. And they were going to the market to buy all this good stuff. And the
whole village was there, deer and goat and horse and donkey and cow and Cassandra the cat, the fox. Everybody was there except for Anansi. Nancy was doing what Nancy always does, which is the thing. And he had done nothing all year long, and there he was, sitting on his veranda in his rocking chair, his feet up, relaxing, half asleep. His wife came out on the veranda and shook him by the shoulder. "Anansi," she said, "can you be just sitting there doing nothing? There's not a scrap of food in the house. And tomorrow's Sunday. You'd better get up and get out there and get hold of some food and bring back here for me and the children to eat. Go on, off you go." "Yes, Crookie," said Anansi, because that was his wife's name. Her name was Crookie. And off he went down the road. And it took the longest walk you can imagine, all the way around the fields, along the country lane, through the pasture, over the fence. He was looking for somebody to call him and give him a little job to do so he could make some money, or maybe give him some food that he could take home for his wife and his children. But nobody was there. They were all in town at the market. So after about an hour or so of walking and nothing happening, Nancy thought, "Let me just get back to doing what I do best." And he sat down under the shade of a huge tree, sat down on the soft grass, and he fell asleep. He slept and he slept and he slept, almost until the sun started to go down and it started to get a little bit chilly. And then he woke up and thought, "I'd better get back home before it gets dark." And off he went on his way home. But he was a little bit ashamed and a little bit embarrassed because having been out all day, he was going home with his 2 long, empty hands. Nothing for his wife and his family to eat. And he was thinking, what kind of story can I make up to tell Crookie? Because she's going to be very angry with me. What can I tell her? And he was racking his brains and scratching his head. And who should he see coming along the road towards him but his old friend, Brother Rat. He was glad to see Brother Rat, not just because Brother Rat was an old friend, but because Brother Rat was carrying on his shoulders a huge bunch of the biggest, fattest, juiciest, plumpest, ripest plantain that you've ever seen. And if you've never seen a plantain and you don't know what it is, just think of a big, big orange banana. That's a plantain. And Brother Rat was carrying a whole bunch of these, maybe 50 or 60 in one bunch. The bunch was so heavy that Brother Rat was bent over double with his nose almost touching the ground. And the bunch of planters was so heavy that every time he took 10 steps, he had to stop and put it down and take a little rest. Well, Anansi went walking right up to him. "Hello, Brother Rat," he said. Brother Rat looked up. Now, he wasn't happy to see Anansi at all. And why do you think he wasn't happy to see Anansi? That's right. Because whenever Anansi came round you, whenever Anansi came up to you, he was always going to ask you for something. So Brother Rat very quickly picked up his bunch of plantains and put them back on his shoulder. "Hello, Anansi," he said. Anansi said, "Brother Rat, my, what a fine-looking bunch of plantains you've got there on your shoulder. They're so big and fat and juicy and ripe. Ooh, they're lovely." "Yes, they're very nice," said Brother Rat. "But I need to get home. I need to get home and put them in my barn because I was too late to get to the market this week. I'm going to take them to the market next week and sell. So, bye, Anansi. I've got to go now." "Oh, Brother Rat," said Anansi. "Brother Rat, don't be in such a rush. I haven't seen you for so long. Let's stop and chat." "But Brother Rat, my goodness, those plantains, they look so big and fat and juicy. I bet you they're really sweet." "Yes, I bet they are," said Brother Rat. "Yes, you might be right. But right now I've got to get home and put them in my barn." And Nancy looked at the plantains. He tilted his head from one side, then he tilted his head to the other side, and then he started to sniff. And then he started to cry. Well, he wasn't really crying. This was Anansi, you know. Anansi's full of tricks. He was only pretending to cry. Brother Rat couldn't help himself. "What's the matter, Anansi?" he said. "Well, Nancy, it's just that I don't have any food at home, and I haven't got any money to buy any food, and I'm going back home to my wife Crookie and the 3 children, and there's nothing at home to give them but water. I don't even have a potato. I don't even have a plantain." Well, Brother Rat was starting to feel a bit guilty now. And he tapped his foot and he looked from side to side and he said, "Well, Nancy, I really wish I could help you, but, you know, like I said, I have to get home and put these in my barn." And Nancy said, I understand. I just have to go home and tell the poor children that they have to have water for their supper tonight. You know, I don't even have some stick to make a fire to warm up the water to give them, but it's all right." And he turned and he started trudging away 1 step, 2 steps, then he turned and he looked back. And then he turned and he trudged 3 steps, 4 steps. And Brother Rat couldn't take it. He said, Anansi, Anansi, come." And he put the bunch of plantains down and he broke off 4 of the smallest plantains he could find, and he gave them to Anansi and said, "Here, Anansi, take these. Take them home to feed your wife and your children. Okay, now goodbye." And before Anansi could say anything else, Brother Rat grabbed the bunch of plantains, threw them back on his shoulders, and off he went. And do you know, without even saying thank you, Anansi had the cheek to shout off to him. "What?" he said. "There are 5 of us in my family. There's me, Crookie, and the 3 children." But by now, Brother Rat had gone way out of earshot, head down, walking away from Anansi as fast as he could. Well, there was nothing for it. Anansi had to go home with the 4 plantains that Rat had given him, and he walked into the house like a king. "Here you are, Crookie," he said. "I left here this morning with nothing, and I've come back, and look what I brought for you." And he dropped the plantains down on the table. 4 of the biggest, fattest, plump, juiciest, sweetest plantains you're ever going to see. Where did you get those from, said Crookie. Never you mind, said Nancy. Don't you worry about that. You just light up the fire, roast the plantains, and make dinner. I'll just go over here and sit down. And then Nancy went and sat down in the corner of the room. Well, in no time at all, Crookie had that fire going, and she had the coal pot going on top of the fire, and she got those plantains and she wrapped them up in banana leaves, and she put them on to roast. And in no time at all, ooh, that sweet smell of roasted plantains was billowing through the whole house. It brought the children downstairs, out of their rooms, away from their PlayStations and their iPads, into the kitchen and around the table. Ooh, can't wait, Mommy, can't wait, they said. Can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. And finally, the dinner was ready. Crookie bought the plantains and put them on the table. And then she stopped and she started counting. She wait, but hold on. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 plantains. And there's how many of us? 1, and she counted herself. 2, she counted the oldest child. 3, she counted the middle child. 4, she counted the youngest child. And 5, she counted a Nancy. She said there's only 4 plantains and there's 5 of us. How are we going to do this? Oh, don't worry about me, said Nancy. I brought the food home. Don't need to eat anything. To tell the truth, I'm not that hungry. And just then his stomach let out a loud rumble, almost as loud as the roar of a lion, because he was lying. He was starving. Don't worry about me, he said. You all go ahead and eat. I'll be fine. I'll just sit here in the corner and watch you. Well, Crookie wasn't going to argue with him. She gave each of the children one of the plantains, and then she sat down herself to eat. And Nancy sat in the corner, watching the plantains, watched as they took off the peel, and the beautiful orange, sweet flesh of the plantain was opened up. And then as the youngest child picked up her fork to cut into her plantain and eat, and Nancy went, and the youngest child looked over and she said, what's the matter, Daddy? And he shook his head and he said, nothing. And a little tear came in the corner of his eye, and his stomach rumbled again. And she said, Daddy, you're hungry. Oh, it's all right, my child, he said. Don't worry about me. You go ahead and eat. But the youngest child said, no, Daddy, I can't do that. And she cut her plantain in half. And she took a piece of the banana leaf and she put her half a plantain on it and said, here, Daddy, that's for you. Now, when the middle child saw what his little sister had done, said to himself, I can't let my little sister show me up. So you know what he did? He cut his plantain in half. Now I hope you all are keeping count of what's going on, you know. So the first child cut her plantain in half, gave half to Nancy. The middle child has cut his plantain in half and taken half and put it on the banana leaf. Now there were 2 pieces of plantain on Nancy's banana leaf, and the 2 children have only got 1 piece each. And then the oldest child said, I can't let my younger brother and sister show me up like that. So the oldest child cut his plantain in half and put that half on the banana leaf for Nancy. And now there are 3 pieces of plantain on the banana leaf, and each of the children only has a half of plantain for themselves. And even Crookie, Nancy's wife, when she saw what the children had done, she said, I can't let the children be so kind to their father, and I'm sitting there and not giving him anything. So she cut her plantain in half and put that half of the planting on the banana leaf and gave that to Anansi. So in the end, Anansi ends up with 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of plantain, and each of the children and Cookie end up with 1 piece of plantain for themselves. But in the end, as usual, it was Anansi who ended up getting more than everybody else. The old trickster had done it again. And that's the end of my story. How are we doing out there, people?
Whoa!
We're doing well. We're doing well.
I'm so sorry I can't see you all. I can't tell what's going on.
Well, maybe we'll bring you back later in the month for a Friday night. And when you've got you're going to get a gremlin-free internet soon, aren't you?
Gremlin-free internet arrives on the 10th of October.
Oh, well, let me know when you've got a Friday after that free, and we'll put you on again. But right now, we'd love another story, because
okay. And seeing as it's Black History Month, I think I'm going to stick with Anansi. How about that?
we love Anansi.
Okay,
Yeah.
lovely. Thank you. This one's going to be a little bit, well, I'm just going to tell the story, and however long it takes is however long it takes. And this is the story. I don't think I've told you this one. This is the story of actually how the Anansi stories got their name. Because I don't know if you know this, but there was a time when the stories weren't called Anansi stories. They were actually called tiger stories. Because that was back in the time when there were 2 kingdoms. You see, there was the animal kingdom and the human kingdom. And over in the animal kingdom, Tiger ruled supreme. Tiger was the lord and master of everything. He was the biggest, strongest, fiercest, and most powerful of all the animals. And all the animals had to bow down to him. One day, Anansi's taking a walk through the forest, and who's coming in the other direction but Tiger? Anansi stopped in front of Tiger and he said, Tiger, I've been meaning to talk to you about something, you know. Oh, yes, said Tiger. And what would that be, Anansi? And Anansi said, well, you've got everything named after you. Everything in the forest. Look, that flower over there, it's called a tiger lily. And whenever I have something wrong with me and I want something to rub my knees and my back, my aches and pains, I go to the doctor and I get something called tiger balm. And look, that little thing fluttering there that looks like a butterfly, that's named after you as well. That's called a tiger moth. And I hear that over in the human kingdom, they have a man who plays a funny game with a stick and a ball. And his name is Tiger something, Tiger Woods. So everything is Tiger. Tiger this, Tiger that, Tiger the other, Tiger the next. Anansi, said Tiger, where are you going with this? I want something named after me, said Anansi. Really? Yes, said Anansi. What I want is, you know the stories that we sit down in the evenings under the tree and that we tell one another? Those tiger stories. I want those stories to be called Anansi stories. Well, Tiger was actually not very happy about this. He looked down at Anansi from a great height and he said, really? And Anansi said, yes. And Tiger thought, I'm going to put an end to this Anansi once and for all. Very well, Anansi, he said. You can have the stories named after you. And Anansi was so happy. Oh, my goodness. He jumped for joy. He danced. He spun around. He looked like Michael Jackson on speed. Oh, you should have seen him. Tiger waited till he calmed down and stopped. And then he said, just one little thing you're going to have to do, Anansi, to get the stories. You are going to have to go out into the forest, capture Snake, and bring Snake to me alive. Well, all the birds up in the trees stopped their twittering and their chirping to hear what Anansi would say. And all the frogs hiding under the leaves and among the grass, they stopped their ribbiting and their croaking to hear what Anansi would say. Because Snake, you see, Snake was big. A big, 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 big fellow. Snake was so big that if his tail was at one end of the forest, his head would be peeping out the other side. That's how big he was. And he had some huge fangs in his mouth that if he clamped his head down on you, that would be the end of you. So how was little Anansi going to capture mighty Snake? Everybody waited to hear what Anansi was going to say. And Anansi said, yes. Well, they laughed, they laughed, they laughed. The birds in the trees laughed so hard, they all fell off their branches and fell on the ground. That's how much they were laughing. The frogs who were hiding under the leaves and among the grass, they laughed till they rolled over on their backs with their bellies pointing up in the air and their legs waving. That's how much they laughed. And Nancy turned and walked home with the sound of their laughter ringing in his ears. But he had a plan, you see, because Nancy's very clever. And the very next morning, bright and early, out he went, and he dug a great big hole in the middle of the forest, deep, 10, 20, 30 feet deep, and down in the bottom of that hole, he put a set of eggs, because he knew that Snake loved eggs. And then he ran round the side of the hole with bottles of oil and cans of grease and tubs of butter and lard and margarine, making it slippery. You see, what he wanted to happen was that when Snake went down into the hole to eat the eggs and then tried to come back up, he would slip down, and he would try to come back up, and he would slip down, and he would try to come back up, and he would slip down. And this would carry on until he was so tired, and then Nancy would grab him and drag him out and take him to Tiger. Now, I think that was a good plan. And if I could see you, I'm sure you'd be nodding your head and saying, yeah, it's a great plan. And along came Snake the next morning, sure enough, looked down in the hole, he saw the eggs, but instead of diving into the hole, he looked around and first he wrapped his tail around a nearby tree, and then he stretched himself down and picked up the eggs and ate them, one by one by one, until they were all gone. And Nancy's clever plan had failed. But do you think he gave up? No. Why? Because Anansi's very clever. So the next day, he went out and he got himself a big net, and he stretched it, and he stretched it, and he pinned it down, and he stretched it, and he stretched it, and he pinned it down. And then he got a rope, and he tied the rope around the base of a tree. And in the middle of the net, he covered it with leaves and grass, and he put a big pile of strawberries, because he knew that Snake loved strawberries. You see, the idea was Snake would come along, see the strawberries, rush across into the middle of the net, and as soon as he started eating the strawberries, Nancy would just cut the rope, the net would fly up and catch him and drag him up to the top of the tree, and Nancy would just come along later, let him down, and take him over to Snake. Well, sure enough, the Tiger, sure enough, along came Snake, saw the strawberries, made a beeline for them, started eating them. And Nancy pulled the rope, and the net was supposed to lift up, trapping Snake inside, but Snake was too big, too heavy, and the net didn't move. So Nancy's clever plan had failed again. Well, the next morning, off he went, down by the river, heading towards Tiger's house to tell him that he'd failed. And who do you think he came across just coming out of his house, catching the warm early morning sun? Snake. "Morning, Snake," said Nancy. Snake looked at him up and down. "Good morning," he said. "You have the cheek to come and tell me good morning after you've been trying to catch me?" And Nancy was like, "Yes," said Snake. "You think I didn't see you? You dug that big hole the other day and you put eggs down in it waiting for me to fall in. And then you put a net down in the middle of the forest and you put strawberries in it waiting for me to crawl onto the net to trap me. And now Snake was right up in Nancy's face, and Nancy could feel his hot breath all on his cheeks. And Snake was looking him right in his eyes, and he said, "What are you trying to do, Nancy?" And Nancy said, he was so frightened, he was stammering. "Well, Snake, you're right," he said. You're right. But you see, don't be angry with me. Don't be angry with me. It's not me. It's Tiger. It's Tiger." Snake said, "Tiger? What's Tiger got to do with this?" Look, said Nancy, "listen, you see, the thing is, I'm there to Tiger, and I'm saying to Tiger that you, Snake, are the biggest living thing in the forest, right?" And Snake said, "Of course I am. Everybody knows that." "Well," said Nancy, "you see, now Tiger says to me that big bamboo tree over there, which is growing upwards, is probably bigger than you. And since a tree is a living thing, then technically the bamboo is the biggest living thing in the forest and not you. This is what Tiger's been saying. And I was trying to get you, to take you, to prove him wrong." Snake said, "Well, you don't need to tie me up to do that. Go and cut down the bamboo tree. Bring the bamboo tree over here. Lie it down on the ground. I will lie down on the ground next to it. And everybody will see that I'm bigger than the bamboo tree. I'm the biggest thing in this forest. Everybody knows that." "Nonsense. Stupidness." "Right," said Nancy. "If you say so." And off he went with his axe, and he chopped down the bamboo tree, and he trimmed off the branches, and he laid it flat on the ground. And he said, "Okay, Snake, now come. You come and line up yourself alongside the bamboo, and we'll settle this stupid argument once and for all." And all the animals in the forest gathered round to see this happen. The birds were up in the trees, twittering and chirping away. The frogs hiding under the leaves and the grass, ribbiting and croaking. And all the foxes and the badgers and the rabbits and the hares, everybody gathered around. And Snake started crawling along by the bamboo. And Nancy ran up to the top of the bamboo and said, "Come on, Snake, stretch. Come on, Snake, stretch. Come on, stretch. Come on, stretch." And Snake stretched and pushed and wriggled and wiggled and forced himself along. And then Nancy said, "Hold on a minute. Oh, you're a clever fella. Now, you see, I'm all the way up here, and you're going to bring your head up here, and for all I know, your tail could be halfway along the bamboo because you're a smart guy. No, I'm not going to let you trick me. Stay where you are." So Nancy went and got some rope, and he ran down to the other end of the bamboo, and he said to Snake, "To make sure you don't cheat, to tie you into the bamboo. When your head reaches the other side, I'll know for sure that you're longer than the bamboo." Snake said, "Do what you like. I know I'm bigger." So Nancy tied Snake's tail to the end of the bamboo, then ran all the way back to the other end and said, "Come on now, Snake, stretch. Come on, stretch. Come on, stretch." And all the animals joined in. "Come on, stretch. Come on, stretch. And Snake stretched and he was getting towards the end of the bamboo, but he was a little bit soft around the middle, you see. He had a bit of a big belly, and the muscles in his stomach weren't that. He looked a bit like John Rowe, you know, so the muscles down there weren't that strong. And he started to struggle a bit. And Nancy said, hold on, I'll give you a hand. I'll put on one of those like those. And he went and got this weightlifter's belt. And he said, I'm going to put this around your middle and close it around the bamboo. And that'll actually give you a little bit more power for you to push. And he went and he got the belt and he tied Snake's middle to the middle of the bamboo. And then he ran back up to the other end and he said, come on now, Snake, not far to go. Come on, stretch. Come on, stretch. And all the animals joined in. Come on, stretch. Come on, stretch. Come on, stretch. And Snake pushed and pushed. And with one last final effort, his head slipped past the end of the bamboo. And he said, see, I'm longer than the bamboo. And as he was about to say bamboo, and Nancy jumped on him with another, we grabbed a big sheet of cloth and he wound it tight around Snake's head and around the bamboo, closed his mouth and tied it in a tight knot. And suddenly, to the amazement of all the animals in the forest, there, lying on the ground, was Mighty Snake, tail tied to the bamboo with rope, his middle belted to the bamboo with a weightlifter's belt, his head and mouth tied up like a mummy in a sheet. Little Nancy had tricked him. And Nancy picked him up, put the bamboo with Snake on his shoulder, and off he went to Tiger's house. He knocked on Tiger's door. Tiger came out roaring. Who's that knocking on my door? And Nancy said, it's me. And I brought you Snake. Nonsense, said Tiger. And he flung the door open and stepped outside. And there, lying on the ground in front of Tiger's unbelieving eyes, was Mighty Snake, tied to the bamboo. And Nancy had actually done what he said he would. And Tiger said, well, well, well. And Nancy, you really are a very, very clever fellow. I tell you what, I made you a promise, and I keep my promises. From this day on, the stories that we sit and tell under the tree at night, that we tell to our children, and these stories will travel all around the world, but from this day on, they will no longer be known as tiger stories. They will be known all over the world as Anansi stories. And so it has been from that day till now. Thank you.
Thank you, Baden. Fantastic. I love that version of how Nancy got the stories. I use a similar one, and there are other brands, aren't there? But it's
yeah.
We like that one. I just
There's quite I like your one that starts in Tilbury Docks and ends up in the East End of London.
Oh yeah. That's right. Oh, what Nancy from West Africa to Jamaica to coming over on the Windrush and then and up to Tilbury Docks. Yeah, that's
low.
Yeah, well, that's because if I'm telling Nancy stories, I'm doing it in pure Essex. So there's.
Brilliant.
He's got to be a bit of a traveller.
Oh yes, he gets around. I had to change it a bit because, of course, I can't do the visuals because you couldn't see me, so I had to take some bits out. But that's just how it is. That's for now. Not to worry.
Yeah, and it's a shame we can't see you because you are wearing. I see you showed it earlier. This most magnificent kaftan today, and just specially, you put it on specially, and then you took it off again so you didn't spill spaghetti bolognese down the front. And
It was
we
chicken
haven't.
soup.
So you put it aside. Don't stain it between now and when you're back on, and then you can show
Right.
it off later in the month when and you know, to help him, you know, you'll see a little hat beneath Baden's name. However you're watching this, if you're on Facebook or any other thing, go to the World Storytelling Cafe. You'll see a little hat beneath his name, and of course, if Baden's going to get rid of these gremlins and get his brand new internet in there, so we can actually see him, you know, kind of it'll help finance it, you know, at least the first month before he gets behind. So I'm sure he'd appreciate a little in his hat. But that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And of course, next week's Friday story. Yeah, round of applause for Baden. You can't see us, but we're making a fuss of you.
Thank you.
And next Friday for the children's telling, we've actually got young tellers telling. We've got a couple of one Romanian child who lives here, one Romanian child from up near Iuliu, actually down about 75 kilometers from Iuliu up in Transylvania, and a couple of other young tellers. So it's going to be, I'm really looking forward to that night. And of course, Sunday at 6 o'clock, we've got, and Baden, you will say how amazing he is, we've got Shola Story, who's a brilliant, originally from Kenya, storyteller. So we've got some great stuff coming up. We'll do, well, I'll talk about the rest as it comes up. Monday night, of course, we've got the second part 2 of To the Woods, and there's five tellers on that, and we're I can't list them right now because my memory cells have gone. The gremlins, actually, the gremlins have been working really hard today. I dropped a couple of young people at college this morning, and I drove back, and in the time I'd gone down and come back, the wind had blown half a tree across the road. The bus had to turn round, and I had to actually get out my car and pretend that I was 16 or 20 or 30 years old again, and lift this tree off the road and put it on the side of the road. So I've done my public duty today, but that was the beginning of the gremlins. And then I sent them to you.
Well, John, I've got some more brilliant news for you for this month, because one of the Monday night Connecting the World events, as of about 10 minutes ago, will feature a conversation on African storytelling, co-hosted by Shola, who is a fantastic storyteller. You guys have got a treat coming up. He is really worth seeing. And he'll be co-hosting that event with none other than Usifu Jallo, the Cowfoot Prince, who is
fantastic,
amazing storyteller. So it's just to set a date, but they both agreed.
Well, let's. I happen to have next to me my diary, and with enormous efficiency. So that's a Monday night, isn't it? And I haven't got. Yes. So this Monday, of course, is part 2 of To the Woods. So could we do it? Could you see if they're available to do it on the 12th?
I will. Oh.
Hi, Louis.
I'll get back to them and sort that out, John. Meanwhile,
yeah, well, that's okay. Well, we'll let everyone know. We'll put it up on the site.
Guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Louis.
Bye. Hey, everyone, and thanks for coming. Sorry about the gremlins, but see you soon.
Yeah, so it's going to be a really good month. Anyway, fairly well. Thank you, Iuliu, for dealing with the troubles as usual. Simona for coming, Bob, and Daniel's gone, but everyone, bye.
Bye, John.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.
John, I'm going to call you.
Okay.